Hey everybody, it's Mr. Haskell, and I'm back with more things you should know by being alive, and in keeping with my last couple videos talking about Thomas Paine, the man, the author, and also his work Common Sense, I want to continue on with his work, The American Crisis. And I want to go ahead and look at the context, the content, Paine's writing style, and some key excerpts from the document, the impact on the Revolutionary War, of course, and then it's just overall enduring legacy. So, just to kind of refresh, or for new folks that are around, who was Thomas Paine? Thomas Paine was an English-born writer. He was also a revolutionary in the colonies. He wrote Common Sense, and it was published in January of 1776, which argued for independence in a clear, direct language, which inspired a lot of colonists. And after Common Sense, Paine saw Americans with the need for renewed encouragement because they were entering into some difficult times during the war itself. And in late 1776, the war was going badly. Washington's army was suffering defeats and setbacks in New York. Morale was quite low. Enlistments were starting to end. Desertions were on the rise. And, well, British forces, they occupied major cities, and the fight for independence was beginning to look rather bleak. But Paine knew words could keep the revolutionary spirit alive. And so he began writing The American Crisis in December of 1776. So the first pamphlet, published on December 19th, 1776, was signed Common Sense, and it had a purpose, and the purpose was to inspire soldiers and civilians, to frame the war as a moral struggle for liberty, and just to encourage perseverance against Britain and the Crown. And of course, the opening is what makes it probably the most famous of his writings, right? The first lines of The American Crisis are iconic. These are the times that try men's souls. The summer soldier and the sunshine patriot will, in this crisis, shrink from the service of their country. Paine was calling out those who were giving up, and he was also urging Americans just to remain steadfast, right? And so the themes that he really tried to drive home, he emphasized the moral rightness of the American cause. He also stressed the necessity of sacrifice for freedom. He also continued to bring up the tyranny of Britain, the Crown, and specifically King George III. And finally, he also highlighted the difficult struggles that they're going through. Give liberty value. It has worth because of the struggle. And so he tried to make in his writing that the revolution should feel like everyone's personal fight. Now, as far as some things that just kind of like jump off the page at you when you look at the American Crisis, some excerpts like tyranny, like hell, is not easily conquered. Yet we have this consolation with us, that the harder the conflict, the more glorious the triumph. Or he also said, what we obtain too cheap, we esteem too lightly. These lines were memorable and direct, and it reached everyday Americans. Now, what also brings the American Crisis to light is in the manner in which George Washington used the pamphlet. George Washington saw its value for improving morale, and before crossing the Delaware River to attack Trenton, New Jersey, in late December, like December 26th of 1776, the day after Christmas, Washington had the American Crisis read aloud to his troops. And so the message helped restore courage at a critical moment. And so the immediate impact is, that the pamphlet then, it's spread across the colonies. It was read in homes and churches and military camps, and inspired soldiers to re-enlist and citizens to keep supporting independence. And the victories at Trenton and then Princeton followed, and it just reinvigorated the American cause. The American Crisis was not a single pamphlet, but it turned into a series of 16 essays written between 1776 and 1783. And each one of the essays addressed the challenges of the war, the criticism of loyalists, and the call for continued unity and sacrifice. And Paine kept writing to sustain, the momentum of the revolution throughout its toughest years. As I mentioned in my writing about common sense, Paine's writing style is clear, it's direct, it's emotional language. There are biblical references for resonance, although Paine wasn't necessarily an overly religious man himself. He avoided using elitist phrasing. He was writing it for farmers and tradespeople and soldiers. And Paine's style made the American Crisis accessible to all. And it fueled a grassroots movement for rebellion and revolution. As far as the legacy of the American Crisis, it became one of the most impactful writings of the Revolution. It proved that the power of words could keep a movement alive. It reinforced that freedom's value is proven through perseverance. Paine's words echoed in American struggles for freedom long after independence had been declared. So, let's get back to the why, the history, right? The why of the history. So why does the American Crisis still matter? It matters because it reminds us that the importance of courage during hard times, that morale and ideas are as vital as the battles that are won, and that freedom often requires sacrifice and collective resolve. Paine's message shows that ordinary people can change history when they refuse to give up, even in the darkest moments. So, kind of wrapping up here, I guess. I've talked long enough. Thomas Paine's The American Crisis wasn't just propaganda. It was a call to courage that helped America survive its hardest times. It reminds us that perseverance and moral clarity can keep hope alive when everything seems lost. If you glean something from this, if this is something new or it's taking you down a memory lane that you've had in the past, please like, comment, follow, share for more things that you should know by being alive. Because just like I said with Paine's common sense, Paine's words still challenge us to stand for what we believe in, especially when the times are hard. Thanks for watching. I appreciate the interactions, and I hope you enjoyed it.